Female traders of the Kumba city in Kumba have staged a protest over the selling of their shops by the Kumba City Council. The Kumba City Council sealed their shops due to the respect of ghost towns called by separatist fighters. The disgruntled businesswomen today stormed the palace of Fon Mukete the Fourth Ekoko to solicit his support for the council to unseal their shops. We shall be having details in this newscast. And the ruling Cameroun People's Democratic Movement, the CPDM, has begun disciplinary proceedings over some members of the party for acts of indiscipline carried out during the last municipal and legislative elections. We shall also be having a senior party official weighing in on that in this newscast. Those are top stories. Good evening and thanks for joining us. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on STV. A special envoy from the president of Burkina Faso, Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, has been received today by the head of state, President Paul Biya, at the Unity Palace. Thierry Hott, special advisor of Burkinabe President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, was bearer of an undisclosed message to the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya. The two high-level dignitaries discussed a wide range of issues of mutual interest between Cameroun and Burkina Faso. Let's now have the reaction of Thierry Hott. He is the special advisor to the president of Burkina Faso.
First of all, you should know that I'm Cameroonian, in spite of the fact that I'm the special advisor to the President Kabore. So I'm at home. And I came here to share some views of my president with President Biya. It was about security, about fighting COVID-19, and about governance. It was a very nice, let's say, moments shared with President Biya.
Yeah, are there any areas where Burkina Faso and Cameroon intend to work along these areas together? Along
the area, sharing experience, mainly on these security issues, fighting terrorism, good practices. I think that it was one of the main purposes of this meeting. The substance. First of all, you should know that I'm Cameroonian, in spite of the fact that
Now, on to our late story. Female traders in the city of Kumba have staged a protest today denouncing the closure of their shops by the Kumba City Council. The Kumba City Council sealed their shops for the respect of ghost towns imposed by separatist fighters. The disgruntled businesswomen today stormed the palace of Fon Mukete the Fourth Ekoko to solicit the support of traditional authorities in ensuring that their shops are reopened. Details with Christelle Asexwele.
Female traders of the Kumba main market today, Tuesday, August 25, 2020, seized the palace of the Fon of Kumba and paramount ruler of the Bafors, Fon Mukete Fourth Ekoko, to make their voices heard on the continuous shutdown of their stores in the Kumba main market, following the senior divisional officer for Meme's strict orders of sealing shops of traders who respect the ghost town Mondays imposed by the separatists.
Yes, me like president for market.
President of the market traders and a woman for one, my colleagues filled my store this morning, leaving me helpless. They say they can't go home but insist on going to protest at the chief's palace.
Don't leave me because I'm mommy for market.
President of the Kumba Main Market Traders Welfare Association, Madame Bonnet, cries out to the authorities not to close their ears on their plight, as some of them are widows who solely depend on their businesses.
Beg officials, I beg, we're not sorry for the widow them. For beg, I kneel down, we're not sorry for them.
I am pleading on the authorities on my knees to come to the plight of these women. It's been a week now and their business areas have been sealed. Please, Mr. Mayor, I am pleading to you, all authorities, on behalf of the women. We know nothing about the killings. We are scared of our lives. Please have pity on us women of the Kumba main market. All our goods are bad. Meanwhile, discussions are ongoing between the Fon, the city mayor, mayor of Kumba 1 Council, and the head of the Bafor Traditional Council for a possible and plausible solution. After this meeting, the city mayor Victor Ngonkele ordered the Bafor Traditional Council to unseal all the stores in the Kumba main market.
The ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement has opened disciplinary proceedings over some members who were found guilty of acts of indiscipline committed during the municipal and legislative elections earlier this year. Apart from punishing the defaulting militants of the party, the session will also serve as an avenue to instill the spirit of a party discipline to these members. Josephine Busy tells us more.
The ad hoc committee of the Central Committee of the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement Party has begun examining files of close to 100 party members who violated party rules during the February 2020 legislative and municipal elections. This is not the first disciplinary session organized by the party, as several militants were sanctioned for not respecting the party rules and regulations in the past years. In 2014, the disciplinary committee of the CPDM intensified the trial of some dissident militants for anti-party activities. One of the accused persons, Professor Mesanga Nyangding, was accused of openly campaigning against the CPDM in Yabasi during the last twin elections. He called the accusations on him mere witch hunting and called it a fabricated story. The mayors of Kony and Bonge councils, Meme divisions, reportedly passed through that disciplinary committee for not attending a meeting convened by Mrs. Beth Ando and former Minister Benjamin Mutanga Itwe. Tempers are flaring up as the illicit sales of party membership cards raised eyebrows during the meeting in the Southwest region in 2015. The committee will hear the cases on individual basis for about a week and send the final report to the party hierarchy for sanctions if necessary. The director of the CPDM Academy, Professor Elvis Ngolengole, said that priority is given to sensitizing party members on the internal rules and regulations of the party. Those concerned with the hearing have come from almost all 10 regions of the country. The session was convened on the high instruction of the national president of the CPDM party, President Paul Biya. The meeting is taking place behind closed doors and infringements have been made public.
It is not the first time acts of indiscipline have been recorded within the CPDM, with party officials clashing openly, especially during elections. We spoke with the coordinator of the CPDM Academy, Professor Elvis Ngolengole, who tells us why these clashes always come up during elections. Let's listen to
Political parties are associations of citizens. Citizens who agree on working together on a common platform based on a common ideology or a common set of values in order that they can attain power, meaning the political power, and preserve that power for as long as they can. Now, as human beings, while they may agree on the political platform and the values and the principles and the objectives of the party, the tendency is that their human nature or their human instincts and reflexes sometimes tend to betray them at certain moments, because, as you know, in the search for political power, some individuals sometimes forget that the supreme interest is more important than the private or individual interest. And so the tendency is that in elections, especially local elections or elections where you elect members, let's say, in councils or in the National Assembly.
Elections by universal suffrage, for example.
Yes, the individuals put in front their personal ambitions and their personal interests. And sometimes these personal ambitions and these personal interests violate, defy, or betray their commitment to the common interest, meaning the interest, the supreme interest of the party, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And it is because of our culture, our acculturation. It is because of our training, our education, and our upbringing, that we all agree that, look, even though we may be individuals, let us agree to forge our differences in order that we can be a strong force to work together.
The leader of the Cameroon Renaissance movement, Professor Maurice Kanto, has been warned against making statements calling for the destabilization of state institutions and the country as a whole. A movement known as Collectif Derrière Provèbe has frowned at Maurice Kanto's call yesterday. The leader of the Cameroon Renaissance movement yesterday threatened to order the population to the streets if elections are called up without solving the Anglophone crisis and reforms not made on the electoral code. The deputy scribe of the CPDM Central Committee, Minister Gregoire Owuna, has also made an open statement denouncing the statements of the leader of the Cameroon Renaissance movement. Heavy winds in the economic capital Douala is threatening to cut off the route from Carrefour Bokom to the Douala International Airport. Eyewitnesses say that the road has practically collapsed, cutting off circulation. Regional authorities have created a deviation, while the population has been advised against using the stretch of the road. Catherine Kone was there earlier today, and our reports.
This is a stretch of road leading to the Douala International Airport that collapsed following the heavy downpour of Friday, August 21, 2020. The road has been temporarily blocked from all users, including vehicles, bikes, in order not to aggravate the deplorable state. Just like this road user approaching the stretch realized he could not get access.
I
saw the images on social media. Unfortunately, didn't know it was this bad. I wanted to cross over so I can run my errands. He questioned authorities on why they did not study the nature of the road. I'm curious for how long has this road existed and why did experts not carry out studies that will show the road needed rehabilitation. Due to the blockage, authorities created a deviation for commuters, but to them it is still very risky. The situation created a deviation and it is very dangerous. We are going to the airport but don't know how to pass. He added that it is time consuming as the deviation path seems longer. It is complicated because we have to go and turn at the Earth Junction. I'm urgently going to the airport to drop the document. And what if I meet traffic? I will definitely not get on time. We are therefore obliged to use the one-way road, which is not very safe.
Donc on est obligé de prendre le sens interdit là, comme vous voyez, et franchement c'est très dangereux.
Despite the creation of a deviation, the commuters still fear for the worst. As time goes on, the damage caused by the heavy rains keeps increasing.
The construction of the ring road in the northwest region of the country will commence in the weeks ahead. The Minister of Public Works has given out the announcement today in Yaoundé. Emmanuel Ganu Jumesi reveals that funding for the project is available and construction will begin sometime in the weeks ahead. He has, however, called on the population to join hands on deck to create an enabling environment for peace so that the works could go on hitch-free. He insisted that the project is of high economic importance to the Northwest region. It should be noted that the population of the Northwest region are still awaiting the construction of the ring road about 30 years after the head of state, President Provèbe, promised the population. Now, candidates who wrote the BAPC examination in Douala have been gripped with anxiety following unconfirmed information that the examination results are out. Josephine Binze visited some schools here in the economic capital and tells us that it still remains uncertain whether the results are out.
Anticipation and anxiety strikes the students' community following the unofficial release of some BAPC results last night. Tensions flare across the economic capital as many flock their examination centers this morning throughout the littoral region to confirm the authenticity of the release of the much anticipated results in the French subsystem of education. We visited Lycée d'Akwa Government Bilingual High School, Government Technical School Bonadumbe, to confirm if results of successful candidates were posted, but the visit was in vain. Reaching out to the regional delegation for secondary education in the littoral region, we got confirmations of the result, which is still pending, and what has circulated via social media may be linked to fake information. Uncertainty still looms in the air as many who have already celebrated their presumed success might end up being disappointed at the release of the official results of the BPC examination.
Let's talk health. The Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malashi, has saluted the country's COVID-19 response, saluting medical personnel for their bravery and commitment. He made the call that was yesterday while chairing a supervisory meeting to evaluate the COVID-19 response in Cameroun. He has, however, warned that a second wave of infection might sweep across the country. But public health officials remain upbeat that Cameroun has the equipment, that Cameroun is well equipped and prepared to handle the second wave of COVID-19 should it come. Catherine Kone spoke with Dr. Etwa and sought to know how medical experts will go about combating any eventuality. Her report.
What will become of Cameroun if the country enters the second wave of the contamination? This question was asked to a public health expert who says,
I think in the first few months of the pandemic, the Cameroon government and other health experts had sufficiently tested and accumulated medicines to be able to manage the first phase of the pandemic. They have accumulated lots of experiences that will help them deal with the second phase.
Pour pouvoir donc faire face à une éventuelle seconde phase de l'épidémie. Donc je pense qu'on est paré.
Curious to know how the country intends to manage the local football championship on the stadiums that have been set up to contain COVID-19 patients, he added.
Je pense qu'en ce moment déjà le taux d'occupation des lits est entre 4 et 6%. Donc il est
I think at this moment, the occupation of beds by COVID-19 patients stands at 6%. Which is relatively low even at the level of hospital. At this moment, the capacities of the isolation centers in the stadium only need to reinforce those in the hospital.
He went forth to denounce the belief that the wearing of face mask, which is one of the preventive measures, is dangerous to one's health.
Non, c'est pas vrai, puisque le masque est principalement utilisé par les professionnels de santé.
It's not true. Masks are mostly used by medical practitioners. For example, surgeons wear 4 to 5 masks a day and they have not died. So a mask helps infiltrating oxygen and disposes carbon dioxide and even help renew air. It has to be noted that it's not any kind of mask that has to be worn.
Since the uplifting of barrier measures to curb the spread of COVID-19, many have ceased from respecting the preventives, believe the disease is finished. The Public Health Minister had on Friday, 21/2020, called for a collective effort from all stakeholders and the population in order to flatten the curve of the COVID-19 and free Cameroon from the pandemic.
Cameroun has joined other African countries to receive a polio-free status certificate today. Health authorities on Tuesday declared the African continent free of the white polio virus after decades of efforts. It is the second time the virus has been eradicated in Africa, but Cameroonian authorities say they will continue the fight against the polio virus. 9 million vaccines were administered across the African continent in an effort which lasted 30 years to kick out the polio pandemic. Now, out of the country, Republicans have opened their 4-day convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, and unanimously nominated President Donald Trump as their candidate for elections in November. In a nation battered by COVID-19 and recession, speakers have warned of darker days should the Democratic nominee Joe Biden is elected in November. More with the VOA.
In Charlotte, a scaled-down convention, partly live and partly pre-recorded, with Republican delegates from around the United States all backing Trump.
So the biggest little delegation of the state of Rhode Island proudly stands united to cast our 19 votes for President Donald J. Trump.
That evening, when the focus shifted from Charlotte to Washington, speaker after speaker defended Trump's handling of the pandemic and economy. As at the Democratic convention, African Americans and Hispanics held prominent roles, including Nikki Haley, an Indian American and former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
The black small business owners who've watched their life's work go up in flames, they matter. The black kids who've been gunned down on the playground, their lives matter too.
Trump was shown at the White House meeting frontline workers who are fighting the pandemic, and citing his accomplishments, recalled his appointment of conservative federal judges, something he said his Democratic challenger Joe Biden would not do.
The radical left will demand that he appoints super radical left, wild, crazy justices going into the Supreme Court. Your American dream will be dead if that happens.
Democrats accused Trump of trying to slow the mail during the pandemic to favor his re-election by suppressing the vote of those likely to back Biden. Trump said Democrats are promoting a vote-by-mail scheme that could expose the election to fraud.
This is the greatest scam in the history of politics, I think, and I'm talking about beyond our nation. And they act like they're aggrieved.
It's a claim ridiculed by Democrats. Viewers were reminded of national protests by the Black Lives Matter movement, hearing from a St. Louis couple who brandished weapons when they felt threatened by protesters.
They're not satisfied with spreading the chaos and violence into our communities. They want to abolish the suburbs altogether.
Trump is trailing in most polls, but the election will depend on who gets out the vote in key swing states like Michigan.
I expect him to have more votes in Michigan than he did last time, and you know, the energy policies and the manufacturing policies, the new trade agreement, all those things are of massive benefit to Michigan and to the upper Midwest as well.
Republicans have 3 more nights to try to shape the narrative before the election campaign gets underway in earnest. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News, Los Angeles.
And that caps this edition of the Primetime Newscast on STV. Thank you very much for watching. Join us tomorrow same time for a fresh edition of the newscast. More news comes up in the French language at 8 p.m. with Leila Renganza. From the entire team in Douala, have a good night.